If a doctor told you that you had exactly 7 days left to live, what would you do? Would you beg for more time, or would you accept death? But the thing that shook me wasn't the sentence itself. It was the moment I realized that my soul had called it in. Why would a part of me want to die? And what was hiding behind the total collapse of my body? My name is Darius Miller. I was someone who existed quietly. I wasn't famous. I had no heroic story to brag about. I was just an ordinary black man who grew up in a conservative Christian family in the suburbs of Texas, a place where emotions were something to be tucked away, and weakness had to be masked with silence. From a young age, I learned how to be a good kid. No trouble, no demands, no tears. I knew how to make people comfortable. I knew how to make everyone think I was fine, even when I was breaking apart inside. I used to smile while my heart was breaking. I did everything for everyone else except live truthfully for myself. And, like many people, I believed I had time. Until my body started to give up. One organ after another began to fail. And when the doctor looked me in the eyes and said, "We estimate you have about 7 days left," I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just felt like someone had finally spoken a truth I had known all along. The truth was, I had never truly lived. I knew I wasn't okay, but I didn't think I was dying. Not until that afternoon, when the doctor looked at me with eyes that held no hope. His voice was calm, like he was reading a recipe, but every word hit me like a hammer. "We estimate you have about 7 days." 7 days, 1 week, 168 hours. I froze, let out a half laugh like it couldn't be real, but deep down, I knew. He wasn't lying. No one lies with eyes that have stared death in the face too many times. My first question wasn't why, but how. How had it come to this? How could I, at 24, feel like a breathing corpse, my body rotting piece by piece, as if my soul had left long ago? I was in the final stage of AIDS. My kidneys were barely functioning. My pancreas was inflamed. My lungs were filling with fluid. My digestive system had collapsed. Every part of me felt like a soldier broken and bleeding after a losing war. And now was the moment the white flag was raised. I should have been afraid. I should have felt regret. I should have picked up the phone and called my mother, my father, an old lover, anyone who had ever mattered. But I didn't. I just lay there with my hand on my chest, breathing each breath like swallowing metal. And in that silence, a single question kept echoing through me, like a knock on a door only I could hear. Are you sure you even want to live? I used to think I loved life. I used to think I was strong, smart, kind, and self-aware. But with death standing at the door of my hospital room, I saw something I had never dared to admit. Maybe I had never truly lived. I had lived to be accepted. I had lived not to be hated. I had lived to appear like someone worth loving. But was that real living? Why did I always feel like something was missing? Like I was lost? Like I was just borrowing this body for a while, dragging myself from one day to the next just to survive? And if survival is the only goal, is that a life worth living? This wasn't just a 7-day sentence. It was a verdict on a whole way of living. My body wasn't betraying me. It was the truth I had ignored for far too long. I wasn't living in alignment with who I truly was. But then, what does it mean to live in truth? How do you even know if you're living your life or just performing someone else's expectations? And if all I had left were these 7 days, could I find the answer? But the thing that haunted me wasn't the fact that I was dying. It was what happened on the 3rd night. That was the night I slipped out of my body for the first time and saw a light no words could describe. It didn't come to save me. It came to ask me one question, and that question changed everything. When that light touched me, the first thing I felt wasn't salvation. It was a nameless sorrow rising from the deepest corners of my soul. It didn't ask me how I had lived. It simply showed me when I had started to forget who I was. And when that first wave of memory returned, I was no longer the 24-year-old man lying in a hospital bed. I was a 6-year-old boy sitting on a plastic chair in the corner of the classroom, curled up because no one wanted to sit beside me. I don't remember why. I just remember feeling wrong. Wrong in class, wrong in my family, wrong within myself. I grew up in a religious home, strict and emotionally cold. Love wasn't something people spoke aloud. You had to earn it. Be good and you'll be loved. That's what I heard. Not just in words, but in every disappointed glance, every ignored moment after I failed, every silence when I didn't meet expectations. So I learned to hide my real self. I hid my sensitivity, my differences, my softness, and the quiet fears that lived inside me. I built a version of myself that was stronger, more acceptable, more lovable. But what did it cost me? Every time I looked in the mirror, I wasn't sure who I was looking at. Every time I stayed silent about what hurt me, I learned another way to silence my soul. Have you ever felt like you were living through a mask? Have you ever asked yourself, if you stripped away everything that made people like you, would there be anything left? That was how I lived for nearly 20 years. I did everything to be loved, but forgot what loving myself even meant. My body didn't just break down out of nowhere. It had been screaming for years. But I was too busy trying to please the world. I didn't listen. I didn't embrace it as something sacred. I treated myself like an enemy, a burden, a machine that had to perform. And it wasn't until I was lying flat on my back that I understood. The thing killing me wasn't the virus. It was the fact that I had never felt like I was enough. And that was when the light beamed into a question I could no longer avoid. If I had never truly loved myself, then who had I been living for all these years?
But the light didn't stop there. It didn't just carry me into the past. It led me to a door, one that stood beyond the physical world, to a place where my soul was waiting for the real answer. And that was the moment I died in the literal sense. That night, I could not sleep. Pain had become as familiar as background noise, gnawing at every cell, but no longer startling me awake. What kept me up was the silence, a strange hush, as if everything beyond the hospital room had paused and was waiting for me to choose. In that stillness, the ventilator faded into the distance, my heartbeat thumped its hollow final beats, and I sensed my body growing lighter, slipping away from the bed. I have no name for what happened next. I heard no summons, saw no hand pulling me, yet suddenly I was not inside my body anymore. I was standing in a space both unfamiliar and oddly known. There was no ceiling, no walls, no blinding light I had always pictured. It was simply a boundless realm, warm and calm, where I perceived everything by intuition rather than words. Then I noticed a door. It did not swing on hinges. It opened from within me, from a place I had never touched in all my years. I entered without moving my feet or flexing my will. Something deeper guided me, as if my soul recognized the way. In that moment, I felt a safety I had never known while alive, free of judgment, expectations, or conditions. Everything was only love. I did not see God in the way people often describe. I saw no angels. Yet I sensed a presence, a vast, intelligent energy surrounding me with a grace no language can capture. It did not ask why I was there, nor scold me for the life I had led. It simply was, as though it had waited for me a very long time. Only then did I feel how exhausted I truly was. Have you ever grown weary of always being strong? Have you ever wished you could collapse into invisible arms, needing no explanation, needing never to prove yourself one more time? I lost track of how long it took me to realize that time no longer existed in that realm. There were no moments arriving and departing. Everything flowed at once, past, present, and unformed possibilities all present together. I was not watching my life like a movie. I became each instant. I was the 8-year-old boy hiding behind the bathroom door while my parents argued because I was not like other children. I was the 17-year-old forcing myself into prom alone, swallowing the sting of being left out, pretending it did not hurt. I was the 21-year-old smiling through betrayal because I believed I deserved it. Every feeling I had rejected, shame, anger, loneliness, envy, came back, not to punish me, but to be acknowledged. They had never disappeared. They had waited for the courage to return and hear me say, "I see you." Have you ever wondered if the emotions you avoid are fragments of your soul? And if you never face them, can you truly live a whole life? Then I felt something I had never felt while alive: unconditional acceptance. Nothing needed fixing. Nothing was wrong. The light did not try to heal me or teach me a moral lesson. It simply listened. My soul was finally allowed to tell its story without interruption, without correction, without judgment. For the first time, I knew what it meant to be fully seen. I cannot say if that place was heaven, only that it was a place where belonging required no effort. And then I heard a question that came without words. Do you want to know why you have suffered so much? The question did not alarm me. It felt like an invitation, a touch on my soul's memory. I nodded, though I was no longer sure I even possessed a body. What followed was not what I expected. There was no shining paradise, no courtroom of judgment. Instead, I watched every moment of my life replay. Each small turning, each feeling I had pushed away, every time I abandoned myself. The deepest pain was not death itself. It was seeing with perfect clarity how I had left myself behind, day after day. I still do not know what to call it. It had no shape and no distinct color, only a presence, a light that did not dazzle the eyes, yet pierced every layer of defense I had ever raised. It spoke no words, yet I heard everything, not with my ears, but with my soul. It felt as though I was finally meeting someone I had known before I was born, and the first sensation was love. Not the conditional kind that needs reasons or ifs or the causes, but a love that required nothing from me except that I exist. I stood there, or perhaps drifted, and the light covered me without hurry or force. It flowed into every crack of my soul, as though it knew precisely where I had fractured. Every tiny wound, every unfinished sentence, every cold glance, every rejection was touched and then dissolved, not erased, but fully understood. I had believed I was unworthy of love because I was different. I was weak because I didn't match what people wanted. I had lived as though I owed the world something, and I could not truly exist until I was perfect. Yet this place needed no proof. It asked only that I be myself. If you never had to strive to earn love, who would you be? And would you dare to become that person? As the light embraced me, I wept, not with tears, but with my whole soul. I had waited my entire life for this moment, not to be forgiven, but to be recognized, not to start over, but to remember that I had never been forgotten. I never imagined love could be so quiet, so unbound, so free of grand words. It was simply a complete presence, and I knew that if I dissolved right then, I would dissolve into an embrace that would never let go. The strangest part was that I did not feel small. I felt widened, expanded, beyond anything I had believed could hold this much light. In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity that the human soul is never small or flawed the way we imagine. It does not crack or shatter or perish. It only becomes coated with layers of fear and shame and teachings that make us forget our pure nature. I once believed that I had to repair myself, scrub myself clean, and pay for my mistakes before I could step into love. Yet the light loved me exactly as I was, with every doubt and every dark corner intact. Perhaps you are living a life that makes you question your worth. Perhaps you were taught that your value lies in what you do, what you own, or who you manage to become. But what if that is all an illusion? What if your true essence has always been complete and sacred from the start? Would you live differently? The light did not hand me an answer. It handed me memory, as though what I was discovering was not new at all, but something I had always known and merely forgotten. I had dreaded judgment my entire life, hiding in the shadow of other people's expectations and my accusations. I pictured a final scale where sins and merits would be weighed and a cosmic courtroom where the soul stands trial. Yet here there was no tribunal, no measuring, no verdict, only truth, and that truth did not hurt me. It shattered me wide open, because for the first time I understood that no one was here to punish me. I had been the only judge and executioner of my own heart. The light saw every fracture in me, every moment of self-hatred, every time I pretended to be fine so I would not be left behind, and it did not back away. It never viewed me as a burden or as a lesson to be taught. It simply saw me and loved me. Could it be, I wondered, that in our deepest dreams we still remember this love? Could every pain in life be an echo of the absence of that unconditional love our souls once knew and somehow lost in the journey of being human? I did not want to leave that place, not because I feared returning to life, but because I had just touched the most sacred thing of all, myself, free of roles, masks, and defenses. I knew I would have to go back, and what haunted me was this question: how do I carry this light into the world of limits without forgetting who I have discovered myself to be? The light had not come only to comfort me. It had come to teach me something far greater, about the way we are programmed to fear our true selves, and about how real love never disappears. We simply forget that it is always present. That encounter opened a cascade of questions that overturned everything I had believed, and it led me to the life review, where I had to face every part of who I had been. I don't know when it began. There was no guide, no screen, no voice narrating my life like the stories I'd seen in movies. It was just me, becoming every version of myself at once. Every moment, every fragment of my life didn't play like a reel of film. It surged over me like waves, surrounding me, pulling me under emotions I thought I had forgotten. And the light was still there, never interrupting, never correcting, only present like a silent witness, waiting for me to face it on my own. I saw myself at 5, quietly slipping a drawing into my desk after the teacher said, "No one cares about silly things like that." I saw myself at 10, forcing a smile as kids mocked my skin color. I saw myself at 16, saying, "I'm fine," while my heart was falling apart. Each memory came with a feeling, but not just my own this time. I could feel what others felt when they were with me. I saw the disappointment in my mother's eyes when I pulled away from her hug. I felt the loneliness in a friend I abandoned with my silence. I saw the pain that spread from my refusal to speak. And then, from somewhere beyond words, 5 questions rose, not spoken, but etched into my soul. Have you ever loved truly, unconditionally, without needing anything in return? Have you dared to live as your true self, or have you only existed to be accepted? Have you treated others as if they were sacred souls, even when they hurt you? Have you forgiven not to forget, but to set yourself free? And do you know that you have always been loved, even when you never believed it? I didn't need to answer. My soul already knew. And do you know what the most painful part was? Not the mistakes. It was all the things I didn't dare to do, didn't dare to say, didn't dare to live, just because I believed I wasn't worthy. Have you ever asked yourself, if today were your last day, what would haunt you most? Not what you did, but what you stayed silent about. When I was alive, I believed regret was the worst feeling, yet it was not. What broke me was not noticing my mistakes, but realizing I had never trusted that I deserved to live another way. I had not lived a wicked life, only a very small one, smaller than my soul, smaller than my true dreams, smaller than all I could have offered if I had dared to believe I was worthy of giving.
I did not see an angry God. No tally of good and bad was presented. Yet one blinding truth remained. I had not lived with an open heart. I had doubted the value of my being, assumed love must come with conditions, and so I stored every imperfect affection and dream in a dusty attic I even forgot existed. One scene in the life review stays with me. I watched a moment so tiny I never recalled it in life. I smiled at a stranger on the street while they were sobbing in a parked car, and I sensed through the light that this small kindness persuaded them to abandon a desperate plan. For the first time, I understood that every action, no matter how slight, sends a vibration across time and space. How many things you consider meaningless have already reached someone's soul? If every choice is a thread woven into the vast tapestry of the universe, what are you weaving right now? I thought this was the end, yet the light kept me there, because one lesson remained. The true nature of the soul is not memory, but choice. I had to choose once more whether to continue the journey, and at that instant a second door appeared, not leading outward, but opening deep within me. I thought everything was complete. After the life review, after the light, after love and awakening, I expected my soul to merge with that realm like a single drop returning to the ocean. Then the second door appeared, not like the first that led me into death, but a door opening toward a depth inside me that I had never reached. From that silent depth, I sensed a question, not in words or sound, but in pure intuition. Now that you know the truth, are you willing to live by it? I had never imagined that returning was even possible. I believed the journey had ended. Yet my soul now stood between two currents: dissolve into eternal peace, or go back to a world of confusion, deception, pain, and imperfection to practice the love I had just received. The most unsettling part was not the fear of starting over. It was wondering whether I would dare to live without hiding ever again. I remembered every wish I had whispered to myself: to be braver, to love harder, to forgive sooner, to trust deeper, to live more honestly. The light never wanted perfection from me. It wanted me to choose again, this time fully awake. But do you have enough courage to return to the place that once broke you? Do you love yourself enough to re-enter the struggle, not to win, but to give?
I knew that if I went back, there would be no flowers on the path. I would still be a black man in an America laden with prejudice. I would still be someone who had lost every opportunity, whose body had been ravaged, who had fallen with nothing to catch him. Yet I would also be someone who had seen the truth, and once you have seen, you cannot pretend you are blind. I chose to return, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I wanted a life no longer ruled by fear. I wanted to speak what must be spoken, do what must be done, forgive before time runs out, and love before the chance is gone. Then I fell, not into pain, but back into a failing body in a cold white hospital room where a nurse had just let go of my hand and the heart monitor line was nearly flat. The first thing I did when my eyes opened was not breathe. I wept, because I knew that from this moment on, every second of life would be a gift meant not to keep, but to give away. But to whom and how? As the light slowly faded and I began to feel the weight of my body again, the first thing I noticed was breath. Not just air entering my lungs, but life returning to every cell, as if my soul had just been reassembled into flesh. I heard my heart beat. I saw the dull glow of fluorescent lights on the ceiling. I felt tears slipping from the corners of my eyes down my cheeks. But what took my breath away was not pain. It was the overwhelming awareness that I had truly come back. And no one in the room had any idea what had just happened. I heard the heart monitor beep wildly. Someone shouted in the hallway. A hand slapped my cheek. Another gripped my wrist. And I just lay there, silent, not from weakness, but because I was listening to my body for the first time. listening to the sound of life returning, listening to the call of a world I had once tried to escape. I remembered what I had promised to live differently. But how does one hold on to the light in a loud world, rushed and filled with doubt? How do you tell someone you've seen the truth when the language we speak isn't big enough to hold it? Have you ever felt that you've changed deeply inside, yet no one around you sees it? And if no one acknowledges that shift, do you still have the strength to keep your promise to yourself? The doctor said my survival was a miracle. I didn't respond, not because I didn't believe it, but because I knew there was a greater miracle still waiting, not survival, but living truthfully. And do you know the first thing I did when I could walk again? I wrote, not to tell a story, but so I wouldn't forget. Because I understand now, we are not lost to death. We are lost when we forget who we are. And if I let that light fade, I will die a second time, this time while still alive. After I was discharged from the hospital, I didn't go back to my old home. I didn't call my old friends. Instead, I rented a small room on the edge of town, near an abandoned church where the morning light still streamed through dusty stained glass in a way that took my breath away. I couldn't explain why I chose that place. I only knew that since coming back, I could no longer live by the old calendar. No more rushing, no more pretending, no more lying to myself. I started over with the smallest things. Each morning, I placed my hand over my heart and asked, "What do you need today?" I wrote down my dreams. I spoke to myself in the mirror. I walked slowly, watching sunlight spill across the sidewalk, listening to children laugh, breathing in the smell of toasted bread drifting from the bakery nearby. And for the first time, I did not feel lonely in the silence. I didn't go out preaching. I didn't post about my NDE online. I simply listened. People began to find me. An elderly woman who had lost her husband came hoping to understand her recurring dreams. A young man who had survived a suicide attempt asked if it was possible to reclaim a stolen childhood. A 16-year-old girl snuck over just to whisper, "If there's still a chance after dying, is living the wrong way as terrifying as people say?" I didn't have all the answers, but I had one truth I knew without doubt. The human soul was not made to be perfect. It was made to awaken. And awakening begins with a choice, to look within, without flinching, without pretending, without closing our eyes. The real question is not how far you've traveled, but how deeply you've returned to yourself. Have you ever asked yourself, if you let go of your titles, your status, your expectations, your worn-out beliefs, what would remain? And would you be brave enough to begin again as a soul unburdened by definition? I didn't return to live longer. I returned to live more truthfully. And I believe this with all my being. If just once in a lifetime, each of us sat in silence and asked one single question, "Who am I if I am not what I own?" then the world would begin to change, not through revolution, not through violence, but simply through one soul remembering the truth. I lived more than 20 years without ever hugging my father, not because he wouldn't let me, but because I never dared to. My childhood was made of silent dinners, heavy sighs after scolding words, and a way he looked away when I cried. I believed he didn't love me. I held on to that belief through my entire adulthood, like a quiet, open wound that never stopped bleeding. But something changed in me after I came back from death. There were no more rules about who should make the first move, no more right or wrong, no more late apologies. Just one question that haunted me through countless sleepless nights. If today were the last day, would I be brave enough to reach for the very hand that once hurt me, just to say I'm still here? I went to visit him. The house hadn't changed. The same smell of sweat and old wood, the same creaking fan. He sat in front of the TV, his back more hunched, his hair almost entirely white. When he saw me, he simply nodded, as if my presence didn't disturb time at all. I didn't know how to begin. I hadn't brought a speech. I had no intention of explaining souls or NDEs. I just sat beside him, gently touched his calloused hand, and said, "I'm sorry for being silent for so long." And he, after a pause that felt like a lifetime, whispered, "Me too."
I didn't cry out of sentiment. I cried because I realized love had never truly disappeared. It had only been buried beneath defense, expectation, and everything we thought the other should have done. And if I hadn't returned from the other side, I might have carried the mistaken belief forever that my father had never loved me. Have you ever wondered if what you need isn't an apology, but just a gentle touch? And if today you were the one to reach out first, would you be strong enough to begin healing something that felt long dead? My mother was the kind of woman who never rested. When I was a child, she worked 2 jobs, cooked dinner every night, prayed every morning, and hid her tears beneath a thin layer of lipstick before heading to work. She was always in the background, silent, like oxygen, essential, but unseen. And I, like most children, became so used to her sacrifice that I treated it as a given. I remember the night I had a high fever when I was 8. My mother sat by my side the entire night, wiping my forehead with a warm cloth, whispering prayers under her breath, even though she still had to leave for her early shift the next morning. I remember the lunchboxes she packed, the quiet reminders before school, the way she looked at me with concern when I slammed the door in teenage anger. But I never looked back. I never asked if she was okay. I just kept living, assuming her love would always be there. After waking from my near-death experience, I carried that light back with me. And part of that light led me to her. She still had that same small frame, but she looked older than I remembered. When she saw me, she didn't cry, didn't ask questions. She just placed her hand on my cheek and said, "I knew you'd come back." I sat down in that little kitchen, filled with the steam and scent of broth, and I said the things I had never said. That I knew she had loved me with her whole life. That I knew there were nights she cried alone so I could sleep in peace. That I was sorry for not seeing it, for not thanking her, for letting the space between us become a habit. And she, the strong woman I once believed didn't know how to be soft, pulled me into her arms and wept like a child. Never before had I understood so clearly. Love does not demand anything in return, but it is not immortal. It needs to be seen, to be named, to be touched. How many of us have let the people we love most go through life in silence simply because we think we still have time? And if today were the last time you saw the one who gave you life, what would you say? Would you be brave enough to stop waiting for the right moment and just do the right thing now? I died, and I came back. But what changed me wasn't the dazzling light or visions of heaven. It was the simple truths so ordinary that the living often overlook them. The truth is that every action creates a ripple. The truth is that every person you meet, even once, is a mirror of yourself. The truth is that a soul does not need to be perfect to be worthy of love. It only needs to be remembered. And in the end, love isn't something you earn. It's something you choose. Every single day. I have learned that forgiveness is not a pardon for the one who harmed you, but a release that frees you from an invisible prison. I have learned that love is not a passing feeling, but a deliberate action. Sitting down, listening, holding a hand, speaking from the heart. I have learned that pain does not arrive to punish you. It comes to open you to the deeper, wider, truer self within. Yet the greatest lesson is this. No moment in life is meaningless. Not the failures, the detours, the silences, the confusion. Every fragment is part of the journey home, back to the soul, back to what can never die in you. And the most beautiful truth is that you do not have to die as I did to start living again. You only need to remember. Remember who you are. Remember what you once longed for. Remember that you have always carried a heart wide enough to love without conditions. It is still there, waiting. So if you are hearing this, know that this is not just a story. It is a reminder. You are alive, and because you are alive, you still have a choice. Will you live like someone waiting for death, or like a soul that has just been reborn? I once thought only the old stand close to death. Lying there on the edge of breath, I realized death does not begin when your lungs stop. It begins when you stop living in truth. What wounded me most during my life review was not my mistakes, but the sight of my younger self abandoning his heart piece by piece without realizing it. I traded health to chase the crowd. I burned my lungs with cigarettes, my liver with strong drink, my trust with toxic relationships, because I feared being alone. I called that freedom, yet it was a chain coated in gold. I assumed youth meant I had time, but youth does not shield you from ruin. It only hides the symptoms. I see so many young people scrolling for hours, yet unable to spare 5 minutes to listen inward. I see bright laughter in stories, then silent tears at 2 in the morning. I want to ask you, are you certain the way you live is the way your soul desires? If you had only 24 hours left, what would you change? And why not change it now, while you can still breathe? I am not asking you to live flawlessly. I am simply begging you not to suffocate the life inside you with stimulants, with anger, or by letting your soul wither through empty days of indifference. You are still young, which means you still have the power to choose again. Do not wait for a doctor to remind you that disease is stalking your body. Be the one who reminds yourself that every unconscious day is a day you misplace your soul without even noticing. If you have stayed with me this far, you are probably on a journey of your own. Perhaps you are searching for something beyond money, success, or status. Perhaps you too have wondered, why was I born? If so, let my story be a whisper right now, telling you that you have never been alone. Do not wait until you are lying in a hospital bed. Do not wait until you lose what you cherish. Do not wait until your soul must scream in silence. Begin living now. Live truthfully. Live fully. Live as though each moment is the last chance to speak, to love, to forgive, to move forward. The universe does not choose the most talented. The universe chooses the ones brave enough to open their hearts. And if you dare to live from the deepest place within, you will not need anyone's approval, because your very presence will already be a kind of miracle. You do not need to comprehend the whole universe to lead a meaningful life. You need only answer one question. Starting today, will you live as someone who has just been given life back?